So, going to do an adjustment on my steering head bearings. I just noticed when I'm in the corner, when it's a little light coming out of the corner, I think, just feels a little bit loose, rattly, and sort of reduces the confidence that you have. Now to do this, I've jacked it up with a piece of timber and then put some blocks across the front of the frame, so that takes the front wheel off the ground. In fact, both wheels off the ground like this, but it's pretty solid having those 2 points of contact. First thing to do is loosen off these two Allen key bolts on both sides. Actually, before that, take off the cluster. So 3 bolts or Allen key screws to take the cluster off, and then you can loosen the clamps on the forks to either side. And then this is a 1 1/16 bolt or cap screw, which comes off, and then this whole assembly is loose, steering handlebars and all. So that will slide off, giving you access to the adjusting locking nut, the 2 ring nuts. So I'll just get these off. I've only got 2 hands, and get back to you. Okay, probably only need to move this cluster housing down the tank. It's just to give it a bit of space so that the fork cover doesn't interfere with the top of it. It will interfere if you don't move it out of the way. So that's all you need to do there. And I'll put a cloth on my headlight so I can just move the handlebar assembly forward. So I've now just moved the handlebar assembly onto the headlamp momentarily, so I can get access to the locking and adjusting ring nuts. What else? These are just cowlings that sit over the top of the forks, so you'll find that they become loose as soon as you take this triple clamp off. And make sure you loosen these off a lot, because there is a lot of flex in this clamping, and if you don't loosen these right off, it still grips as you're trying to pull this off. So yeah, make sure you pull these out a lot, so there's plenty of space for the clamps to open up. So I'm just going to now, I need to loosen off the top nut so I can put some force down on the bottom nut. I need to preload it, then back it off, and then load it with the final adjustment. Right, just to show where what's what. This is the little locking nut that just basically sits down and ensures that the top nut is locked into the bottom nut. So that just basically slips off. Then this top nut, you'll find, at least in my case, is hand loose, so I can loosen that off. I haven't tried to unlock it with anything. I think ideally that should actually have been tightened down to the bottom nut, but they've probably just aligned the slots, and therefore it's been a little bit loose, and therefore the bearings have loosened off slightly, which has given me a bit too much play. So I'm just going to clean that up now, because there's a lot of grease and grime, and then I'll do the adjustment. So I've just cleaned it up a little bit with a brush and cloth. Just sprayed a little bit of degreaser on the cloth and brushed around it just to take all the excess grease off. So you can see the locking nut, which has got a set of slots in it that I just need to use a small hammer and a chisel or screwdriver or whatever, just to knock around. There is a proper C spanner to fit that, but I don't have one, so I make do with what I've got. Okay, so I've just nipped it up. It's certainly not what you call a lot, and I think people use the test when you've got the front wheel up in the air. as long as the steering free falls smoothly and without any binding, it shouldn't be too tight. But I've only done it like, I don't know, from, if you can imagine, the nut moved from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That's about the extent of what I've tightened. Then the next thing that goes on, I forgot to mention, there's a little rubber seal between the top and the bottom locking nut, and then this one will slot into whatever lines up as far as these slots go. I thought they were actually offset from each other so you can find a suitable slot for this, but yeah, we'll see how it goes when I put it back in. Just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from, this is the workshop manual. It does say to give it a bit of a check on the front axle to see if there's any movement. If there's any binding or looseness, then you need to adjust the steering head. As I say, take off the nut and the two clamps, fork clamps on either side, and then there's the locking nuts that I referred to. Just seeing if it's got a seal in between the two of it. It looks like it does. Rubber washer. The rubber washer sits in between the two, so that's number 3 in that diagram. And as far as torque goes, initially they say to wind it up to 37 foot-pound and then loosen it back off, and the final adjustment is only 2.2 foot-pounds, so not a lot of weight on those bearings. And that's the clamp, C-clamp that I'm referring to, which I don't have, so I'm just using feel, and if I have any concerns when it's done, then I will back it off, but I'm pretty confident that I'm where I need to be. So I'm guessing that rubber washer, which you'll see in there between the top and bottom nut, I think it's there to actually prevent you over tightening the top nut. So all the top nut is going to do is put some force down on the bottom nut to ensure that it doesn't back off or unwind. But you cannot actually over tighten it when you've got that rubber washer. So as soon as you try to start tightening it up too much, that rubber washer is really going to start binding up. So I don't know, even just tighten it up slightly more. But yeah, the rubber washer starts compressing and coming out if you do it too tight. So I guess that's just a safety factor to stop it being over tightened. Then the little locking washer slides down so the tabs go straight through the slots, which line up, and then it can all go back together. Okay, so this is pretty easy to slide back into place. Just use your two hands on the handlebars and slide it down. As these are just alloy covers, these things, you want to make sure that by the time you've slid it down far enough, they don't rattle, because I'm sure they'll have an annoying rattle if you don't bring the triple clamp down far enough. So they're both tight. What I ended up doing, just to make sure, was put the rag on the triple clamp and just use my soft-faced hammer to knock it down into place. So I just need to put the washer and nuts on the top, tighten up the two nuts on both sides, and just feel how it sits, and that'll be it. There's not much to it. Bring this instrument cluster back into place. Just something to be aware of, that steering head nut or cap head nut, that's actually 94 foot-pound of torque, which is not insignificant. That's on my torque wrench, that's right up at the limit. This one is 100 foot-pound, and I've done plenty of engine heads with this torque wrench, so that's a lot of torque. So make sure that you've got that torque down sufficiently, because I guess that is ensuring your forks and steering head is all aligned and not going to move when you're riding. So once that's been tightened, you can then tighten up these clamping, oops, I got the wrong Allen key. So I think this is a metric 5mm being the correct Allen key to tighten those up. So just make sure that you've nipped those up. The torque settings is certainly not anywhere near the that cap head screw, the bolt, but I will tell you in a tick. Again, probably by feel is going to be enough for this. You can see the clamp actually closes in on the forks, and as one's tightening you can feel the other one loosen off again, so make sure you nip them both up several times. Now this is going to be short term. I have plans for this bike. I bought it as a bit of a project, so I'm going to be stripping it down, and I'll probably replace these bearings, properly grease them, put it all back together properly. That chrome cap will go back on once I've changed that filter. But yeah, I bought this bike as a bit of a project, but I still want to ride it in the meantime, so that's why I'm making this adjustment, so I feel safe and comfortable when I'm actually riding it. So this doesn't take long at all to do this adjustment overall, and it certainly makes you feel a lot more comfortable and confident on the bike once you know the front steering isn't jumping around or loose. So just tightening these up. See, once I tighten that top one, the bottom one's completely loose again, so make sure you go through both of them and take it in turns to tighten top and bottom multiple times. Okay, and the actual torque is 7 foot-pound, 7.2 foot-pound versus 94 for the nut on the top of the stem. So as soon as I put that instrument cluster in, the job is done. I will test the front while it's off the ground, just to make sure that, well, there's no binding, I can tell you that. And I'll just make sure that there's no movement when I pull it from the front of the axles, or bottom of the forks, front axle. And what you might hear, the rattle, something very common for these bikes, the weight. There's a lead weight in these mirrors, and they are fixed to the backing and they fall off, they actually go loose. So my plan, rather than buying a new set of mirrors, because these are non-serviceable, you can't do anything with them, my plan is to actually drill a small discreet hole under here, fill it with filler, that expanding foam, and hopefully that stops the rattle, which I have in both mirrors. So that'll be my next job. Just need to get some expanding foam and knock that one off as well. So till next time, I will see you later. Stay upright and stay safe on the roads.